Gautam, Associate Professor. I'm going to tell you about the topic on the intrauterine fetal death. Or loud बोलना बहुत disturbance तो नहीं होगा? Okay. So I'm going to tell you about the intrauterine fetal death. So we have to seek the answers why is it is there. So, first, I have to tell you about what is intrauterine fetal death. Fetal death before onset of labor or fetus with no signs of life in utero after 20 weeks of gestation, that is known as intrauterine fetal death. But this definition varies according to the development of the country, and sometimes for the some country when they are too developed, they are uh, taking care of the low gestational age fetus. So there is a lesser gestational age on which intrauterine fetal death can be prevented, and depending on the birth weight also. So WHO is given a combined definition which can apply in either country. But most of the time, this is for underdeveloped or developing country, and in fact, delivered without signs of life after 20 weeks of gestation or weighing more than 500 grams when gestation age is not known. That is intrauterine fetal death. So WHO is saying, which was definition was developed in 2012. Fetal death means death prior to complete expulsion or extraction from the mother of a fetus, irrespective of duration of pregnancy, which is not an induced termination of pregnancy. Induced termination of pregnancy, and when the baby is dead after the induction, that will come under the stillbirth. So, are you fetal death, stillbirth, no evidence of life after birth beyond 20 weeks. So, there is a terminology stillbirth and the IUD sometimes, which is very confusing. So fetal stillbirth is two types, fresh or the macerated, and the fresh stillbirth always indicate the quality of intrapartum care. So we have to prevent the fresh stillbirth. IUD can be divided into two types, early IUD or the late IUD. 20 to 27 weeks IUD are the early IUD, and most of the time, uh, these are not preventable or resuscitation, because the resuscitation word is used because sometimes in India also there were some cases lost by the public that my fetus was 24 weeks, doctors didn't resuscitate, or doctors hasn't seen any signs of life. So these are the medical legal complications which can occur with the IUD. And in the India, we are taking the viability period only beyond 28 weeks of gestation. So sometimes the pediatricians are also in dilemma whether to resuscitate, not to resuscitate, or when there is no signs of pregnancy, oh, sorry, there is no signs of life, then there is no need of resuscitation in this gestation age. Okay. Another thing is a late IUD is the more than 28 week or the equal to 28-week gestation. So in this, there is no signs of life and no resuscitation is done. Okay. So what could be the impacts? Why is it important? Emotionally challenging. It is emotionally challenging is as for the doctor as well as for the parents. Why for the doctors? Because it's really a bad news to give someone that baby is not alive. So doctors are also in dilemma, and they have to think how to communicate about all these things. And the parents, because the whenever the woman is carrying a pregnancy up to a certain gestation age, she is in love with the fetus, and she want to means like it is just like a shattering of dreams that a mother is facing. Okay. So as well as there is increased medical legal risk, which I have talked earlier also. Okay, there is sometimes there is some medical legal implication when there is no resuscitation, and they got a still birth in a fresh form, fresh. If they are getting fresh IUD, then they are going to say because कि पता नहीं देखा कि नहीं देखा, sometime like this scenarios are developed, and they used to lodge the complaints against the hospital or towards the doctor healthcare workers. So indicator of countries, it will act as of now, it is not included in an indicator of country's healthcare system, but it can be utilized as an indicator. In what is an indicator? Indicator is a term by which we are assessing the progress of the country. Like there are some Lakshya indicator in the Lakshya program. So like it is also like that, the stillbirth rate, if a country is having, if a state is having higher stillbirth rate, that means they are not taking care of their antenatal women, their the program is somewhere lacking. Okay, so what is the frequency? And for you all, I have to say that there is stillbirth frequency is variable. So how we are calculating the stillbirth rate is number of stillbirths divided by per thousand live births. So complicates 1% of the pregnancies. In 50% of cases, cause is not known. So only 50% or the 60% cases we can come to a conclusion of a diagnosis of IUD. Otherwise, when the parents are going to, why is it happened? Why is it happened with me? Why? What were the complications? So we are also not answerable. We are not able to give any answer because we also don't know what would be the lying cause for this death. Okay, so the current trends, the current trend in 4.5 to 6.5% thousand per thousand birth rate is there, but for India it is quite high, that is 22.1 per thousand birth, and worldwide a cumulative rate is 18.9 per thousand birth. Rate depends on the medical care and the reporting. So it also depend on the more reporting, like PHC and CSC before the Lakshya program, they were not reporting, they were not sending any data about the stillbirth rate. So we are not able to know the exact rate. So this 22.1 also could be a lesser data, and the stillbirth could be more. So, what is the etiology? It is unknown. I have said earlier that it is unknown in 50% of cases. In the known causes, the causes can be divided in four things: maternal, fetal, placental, and unexplained. Maternal is 5 to 10%, fetal 25 to 40%, placental 20 to 35%, and unexplained also. Even in the causes, there is unexplained causes and unknown causes. These are both entire different entity. Okay, so what could be the risk factor? And from the mother side, obesity is the emerging complication, because now, because of the sedentary lifestyle, because of continuous sitting in a job, 9 to 5 types of job, there is increased obesity in the females, and more than 30 kg per meter square BMI is too common, and it is a proven modifiable highest ranking reason for the stillbirth in maternal causes. Okay, another reason is the maternal age, and as well as the paternal age. Maternal age, as the age is increasing, the quality of ovum are decreasing, and same for the paternal age. If the both partners are of higher side of age, like 35, 40 years, 42 years, because of IVF, because the pregnancy is getting common, but the age we can't modify. Modifiable factor nahi hai age. So when the parents or one of the parent is of higher age, there are chances of stillbirth. Smoking, alcohol, drug abuse, these are the modifiable factors which we can change, because in a subsequent pregnancy we can at least advise them, please stop all these things. Okay, and the infection. Malaria is a proven infection which is going to create a microthrombi in placenta, and that leads to death of the fetus. Hepatitis, influenza, syphilis, toxoplasma, and sepsis. So these are the various infection which can lead to stillbirth. Now the question arises, because you all are sitting in your home and you are thinking about the coronavirus. So by the large, till date there is no proper data gathered, because from the China as well as from the US, because where the maximum number of casualties as well as the number of patients, but there is no proven data about the vertical transmission of infection, as well as the placenta are not showing any infection. Okay, in the medical diseases, there is diabetes mellitus, hypertension, thyroid diseases. मैं क्लास में हूँ, क्लास चल रही है. So, diabetes mellitus, hypertension, thyroid diseases, pre-existing diseases could be anemia, epilepsy, autoimmune disorders, RH incompatibility, hyperpyrexia. Hyperpyrexia, that means it is It could be indirectly related to the COVID-19 because there is a fever which used to occur in COVID-19 also. So you can correlate, but it is not proven at least. Thrombophilias, trauma, cholestasis of pregnancy. Cholestasis of pregnancy is a known cause because it is in the danger sign of pregnancy. Whenever patient is complaining of itching, there should be an alarm in your brain about if the patient is complaining of itching, then there could be chances of cholestasis of pregnancy, and that lead to decreased fetal movement followed by the stillbirth. Okay, so whenever you are receiving any patient with cholestasis, diagnosed cholestasis of pregnancy, or a complaint of itching all over the body, or in the palm and soles, or on the abdomen, you should at least advise the patient about the fetal movement and frequent outpatient department visits. Okay, there could be some obstetric cause, PPROM. PPROM is preterm premature rupture of membrane that can lead to the infection in the fetal membranes. Okay, abruption. Abruption, what is abruption? Abruption is the sudden separation of placenta from the maternal surface that lead to the excessive blood loss, and that could lead to the sudden IUD. Okay, another thing is a multifetal gestation. Why the multifetal gestation? In the multifetal gestation, monoamniotic monochorionic pregnancy is more prone to get a IUD. Reason, there is entanglement of cords that could lead to the death of the fetus. And labor related, in the labor related, preterm labor, dystocia, uterine rupture, all then these can lead to the fetal death. Fetal causes, of course, the multiple gestation I have told you, IUGR, congenital anomalies and infection, hydrops, immune as well as non-immune hydrops, G6PD deficiency, birth defects. All these are the fetal causes for the fetal death. Placental causes, I have told you about the abruption variable cord accident. I have told you about in the twin pregnancy cases or the multiple pregnancy. Placental insufficiency. What is placental insufficiency? Placental insufficiency is a term when the placenta is not able to give the adequate oxygen and nutritional supply to the fetus, that lead to the placental insufficiency, that lead directly for the IUGR, which I have told you about the IUGR second point. So that placental insufficiency lead to the intrauterine growth restriction, and that could lead to the fetal death if the patient is not taken care of when you have diagnosed IUGR. So for please, you have to diagnose at proper time so that we can prevent IUD. Okay, placenta previa, of course, you all know. TTTS is the twin transfusion syndrome, chorioamnionitis, premature rupture of membrane, feto-maternal hemorrhage. Iatrogenic, you know very well the term iatrogenic is, that means healthcare worker induced or the doctor induced or the nurse induced. Okay, that is ECV, external cephalic version. You are trying for a breech to come as a cephalic presentation and it lead to the fetal death. Drug overdose. So how you're going to diagnose? Patient is going to come with, of course, you have to ask the symptoms. So first of all, you have to ask a leading question. You have to ask whether you are having fetal movements. And if the patient is saying, no, I'm not having any fetal movements since this much hours, this much days or anything, then you should always be alarmed. For at least, if you're sitting in a admitting hospital, then you have to advise admission to that patient stat. Then of course, when you are advising the admission, you have to check about the signs. There should be retrogression of the positive changes that can be seen on the breast. On per abdomen, there is gradual retrogression of the height of the uterus. Uterine tone is diminished. Fetal movements are not felt during palpation. Fetal heart sound is not audible. So what you're going to do? Investigation. You have to go for investigation because only on the clinical basis you can't confirm that fetus is dead. And because if you are making only on the clinical basis, that could lead to the medical legal implications. So for you need a USG. USG is ultrasonography that is 100% sensitive and specific. For that you have to do, and as well as associated features you have to note in the ultrasound. Straight X-ray, previously it was done, but it is obsolete obviously there because we can't check about the fetal heart in the X-ray. Roberts sign, which we are using too much in your Viva exams or in a short note on the IUD. Appearances of gas shadow in 12 hours. ठीक है? Spalding sign, collapse of the skull bone usually appears 7 days after. There is a ball sign, hyperflexion of the spine, because spine is connected with small spinal bones. So what happened? वो जो है ना, it is going to be curled up and become like a ball. So it is called the ball sign, Robert sign, Spalding sign. These are the various fancy names which we used to ask in a Viva voce. Okay, helix sign. Helix is a gas in umbilical artery. You will see a gas in umbilical arteries. That is very definitive, 100% definitive sign for the IUD. Crowding of the rib shadow. क्राउडिंग ऑफ रिब शेडो बिकॉज क्या होता है, जब बेबी बॉल की तरह से होएगा तो रिब्स जो है ना अपने आप कंप्रेस होंगी एंड दैट विल लीड व्हेन यू आर गोइंग टू डू एक्सरे देयर इज अ क्राउडिंग ऑफ रिब्स. ओके, so, how you're going to do evaluate? There should be a systematic institutional approach for the evaluation of the fetus. Why is it dead? Okay, so varied recommendation. Yet there is no scientific evaluation plan. Studies are going on stillbirth corroborative research network. Optimal evaluation is very must. Chance of recurrence, because when you are doing a counseling there is a you are going to tell about that of course the baby is dead, there is chances of recurrence, future preconceptional counseling is required, pregnancy management for this case is required, plan prenatal diagnostic procedures, neonatal management, all these things are required and it should be done in a systematic way, and you should search about an obvious cause which lead to the death. So no further testing or limiting testing, cord accidents and anencephaly. So when you found that there is a cord accident, then of course there is no need of further testing. Okay. So in the history, you have to see, you have to ask the various question, various leading question. In the gross examination, you have to check about the stillbirth infant. You have to check umbilical cord. You have to check placenta, amount of amniotic fluid, color of amniotic fluid. Then that will again a fetal autopsy and karyotyping. If the parents are comfortable to give the fetus for autopsy, then it is really a good thing to investigate, because there's chances of next pregnancy, usme we can find a cause ki why is it happened, so that we can prevent in a next pregnancy. So if the parents are not too willing, we can take some sample for the karyotyping, placental investigation as well as the maternal investigation. This is the systematic approach for to do the for the investigation and management of the IUD. So in history, what you're going to ask, you have to ask about a family history. What is the chances of recurrent abortion? What are the chances of congenital anomaly, abnormal karyotype, hereditary condition, developmental delay? You have to ask the history of the female as well as their maternal side history, mother, sister, cousins. Okay. In the past obstetric history, from the female, you have to ask baby with congenital anomaly, hereditary condition, IUGR, gestational hypertension with adverse sequelae. Was there any placental abruption, intrauterine fetal death in previous pregnancy, and the recurrent abortion? These are the past obstetric history which we have to ask if the patient is not primary gravida. Okay. And in the maternal side, there should be, you have to ask the history of diabetes mellitus. Of course, you are asking in your each cases, so you have to ask the diabetes mellitus with proper leading questions, so that you can extract the diagnosis, provisional diagnosis of diabetes mellitus, hypertension, thrombophilias, autoimmune disease, severe anemia, epilepsy, consanguinity, heart disease. All these maternal histories should be asked, so that you can come to an inference. So how you are going to describe? So you have to describe about the infant description. If you are able to see anything malformation, you have to write the malformation. Skin staining, if it is present, yes or no. Degree of maceration. Degree of maceration is very important to tell. Then you have to tell about the color, whether it could be pale, it could be plethoric. What is plethoric? Plethoric is when fetus is receive enormous amount of blood either from the mother, or especially plethoric infants are from the multifetal gestation fetus. Okay, umbilical cord, type of the umbilical cord, whether single artery, double artery, whatever the status of the umbilical arteries, that should be explained. And as well as you have to tell about the whether you, when you have taken the delivery, whether umbilical cord was prolapsed previously, was there any entanglement in neck, arm and the legs, hematoma or the strictures, number of vessels, length. These are the various gross description. Amniotic fluid. In the amniotic fluid, you have to check about the color, meconium, blood, or any other color. In the volume, if you're able to calculate, but because it is very tough task to calculate the amniotic fluid, you can only roughly say whether it was in higher amount like polyhydramnios. You will descriptive, only in a descriptive manner you can say there was a high amniotic fluid and the low amniotic fluid. And about the placenta, you should do the weight of the placenta and staining, adherent clots, structural abnormalities, filamentous insertion, edema, hydropic changes. All these should be maintained in a, if you are doing in a tertiary care center, all these points should be taken care of. Then membranes, you have to tell about the status of membrane, whether they are foul smelling, whether they were stained, or is there any thickening of the membranes. So fetal autopsy, how we are going to proceed about the fetal autopsy in carrier. There are two important tests in stillbirth evaluation, crucial for future pregnancy. Of course, it is very crucial for future pregnancy, so it could be avoided. Appropriate consent is required to take fetal tissue. Autopsy, you can't take fetus for autopsy without any without their consent. Ideally it should be done by perinatal pathologist. If denied, post-mortem MRI should be considered. Okay, radiograph, if indicated for skeletal abnormalities, you are able to see any visible skeletal abnormality, you should take various x-rays and the photographs. All these things are required. In the fetal karyotyping is especially required in a case of dysmorphic fetus, fetal growth restriction, hydropic fetus, and there should be chances of any chromosomal anomaly. If you're feeling, then you should take a sample of fetal karyotyping. So what samples you should take? Amniocentesis, highest yield hoti hai. You should take uh, amniotic fluid before doing any induction for the IUD. You should take some sample of amniocentesis. But if you are doing ultrasonography and you found that there is oligohydramnions or any other thing, and there is less like there is a history of leaking as well, then you can proceed for 3 ml fetal blood from umbilical versus or the cardiac puncture heparinized blood, because of course you are going to take this sample after the delivery of fetus. Amniocentesis you can do before the delivery of fetus, and this blood sample you have to take after the delivery of fetus. And whatever the reason, if you're not able to obtain the blood, what you are going to do, you have to take placental block of 1 into 1 centimeter, cord of 1.5 centimeter. And number 3 is very dangerous. Until unless you haven't taken any consent, don't do this. You have to take consent, because you have to send a bone, extracted a bone from the fetus. Costochondral junction से लेना है. Approximately 1 into 1 centimeter, 1.5 centimeter का एक block लेते हैं costochondral junction से, और the patella, that is bone over the knee. Of course you know. So skin is not recommended. Skin पहले बोलते थे in India, and I have heard in a conference कि skin ले लेते हैं, but it is really not needed. You have to take the placental block, 1 into 1 centimeter, cord of 1.5 centimeter, costochondral junction or the patella. Okay. So parents with multiple pregnancy losses, for aneuploidy you have to do the fish, and for small deletion you have to do CGH. Placental investigations क्या क्या करेंगे आप? Chorionicity. If there is a multiple fetus, you have to check about the chorionicity. Cord knot, vessels and thrombosis, infarct, thrombosis, abruption, vascular formation, signs of infection. Of course, the same sample placental block लेना है आपने 1 into 1 centimeter below cord insertion. ठीक है. Umbilical segment लेनी है 1.5 centimeter की. Placental swabs for infection and bacterial culture for E. coli and the listeria. मैटरनल इवेल्यूशन, मदर का क्या क्या टेस्ट भेजेंगे आप? सीबीसी दैट इज कंप्लीट ब्लड काउंट, एचबी इलेक्ट्रोफोरेसिस फॉर to diagnose the thalassemia, diabetes testing करेंगे. You have to do the HbA1c and fasting blood sugar. TFT is thyroid function test. Additional test which is required in Rh negative pregnancy, that is Kleehauer-Betke test for all women before birth of the fetus, and in RHD negative second test after the antidote. ठीक है. Serological test क्या क्या करोगे आप? टॉर्च, syphilis, parvovirus infection, but it is not recommended in all cases. Opinion varies because in India you are not able to do all of the tests, so depending on the situation, institutional protocol, there should be different serological testing is required. It is rarely helpful if clinical findings suggest intrauterine infection, that is those with IUGR and the microcephaly. Another test which you are sending in, which we are sending in our institute, is that is antiphospholipid antibody, antiplatelet antibody. Antiplatelet antibody is only sent after the hematological consultation. Antiphospholipid antibody any gynecologist can send. Okay, thrombophilia screening, when to do? It should be done after 6 week postpartum, because if you're taking any sample during the antepartum period or the postpartum period immediate, that could lead to the misdiagnosis. Reason, there is hematological changes in pregnancy itself as well as in the IUD patients. ठीक है, IUD cases. Current ACG recommendation क्या है? You these are the bile acid cholestasis of pregnancy that could be important cause. So you have to send the bile acid sampling for the IUD cases. And I have already told you there is a recurrence chances of 80% in cholestasis of pregnancy. So that is a recurrence of, that could lead to the recurrence of intrauterine fetal death also. ठीक है. High vaginal and cervical swab for culture and sensitivity. Urine toxicology screening. Cocaine, amphetamine are associated with abruption. Why urine toxicology screening? If you are getting some illicit drug history, then you should do this urine toxicology screening, which is not that much common in India. So now the management, that is the best thing, because whenever there is a lecture, okay, you got the incidents and everything, but what we are going to do if we got a patient in our clinic? So what are the depending factors? The first thing you have to decide whether it is a single gestation or the multiple gestation. Another thing is the gestation age at death. Okay, parents की क्या wish है, whether they want an induction of labor or they want an expectant management. In expectant management, obviously there is too much chances of emotional burden, there is too much chances of chorionitis and DIC, so you have to be very apt to convey your feelings to the parents, that if you are going to do a take an expectant approach, that lead to the depression as well as infection and life threatening DIC. But in expectant one whomsoever parents are taking the expectant management as the choice, you have to advise them that it is 80% time they are going in labor by themselves in 2 to 3 weeks. So of course 3 week is the limit. So that so you have to counsel कि भाई whenever you are taking expectant approach, 2 से 3 हफ्ता लगेगा. ठीक है, 2 से 3 हफ्ता डिलीवरी में लगेगा, और चांसेस है बेबी के मैसेरेट होके उसके पार्ट बॉडी के ब्रेक हो सकते हैं, एंड दैट कुड लीड टू दी further complications. Okay, so right now I haven't seen any parents which are willing to get a expectant approach, active approach. In the active approach, you have to do the induction of labor. How to do the induction of labor? You have to decide the gestation age that I have told you previously in the second point. What is the gestation age at death? So if the fetal death is at less than 28 weeks, you have to give the mifepristone 200 milligram, followed by misoprostol 400 microgram 4 to 6 hourly. Most effective with shortest induction and delivery interval. Fetal death more than 28 weeks, cervical ripening you have to do, mechanical or chemical, followed by oxytocin induction. WHO regime for misoprostol in IUD cases, they are saying कि, if there is a term IUD, okay, so you have to give it 25. You have to start with 25 micrograms 6 hourly, 2 doses. That means 12 hour, in a 12 hour, if you're starting induction in the morning, like if you're giving in a 6 a.m. first dose, 12 p.m. second dose, then you have to wait till 6 p.m. Okay, and then 6 p.m. you have to reassess the patient, and if there is no response, then again you have to give the 50 microgram. Then you have to double the dose, 50 microgram 6 hourly. That means you are going to check again about the इन द मिडनाइट, फिर मिडनाइट के बाद आप दोबारा सुबह 6 बजे रिपीट चेक करोगे। तो इसमें 50 माइक्रोग्राम की जो डोज है बच्चों, वो आपको 4 डोज से ऊपर नहीं ले जाना। रीजन दैट इज 200 microgram, and in the term you can't exceed for induction 200 microgram doses. That is the limit of the dose. Okay, do not use oxytocin in 8 hours of using misoprostol. So like I have told you कि मैंने सुबह 6 बजे इंडक्शन शुरू किया. In the morning I have given 25 microgram at 6 a.m. Then 12 p.m. I have again given us 25 microgram. ठीक है, फिर उसके बाद at 6 p.m. I have checked the bishop score. It is not that well कि मैं oxytocin start करूँ. तो you have to give 50 microgram. But when you are stuck in midnight, and you're seeing that at 6, even at the 12 there is a proper bishops, then in the morning at least there should be 6 to 8 hours delay to start an oxytocin, because there should not because it can lead to hypertonus. Okay, so you have to start oxytocin later. And misoprostol is contraindicated in a case of previous cesarean sections. So what is the RCOG and NICE recommendation? NICE is a National Institute of Clinical Excellence, UK. Okay, so in the less than 26 weeks, you have to give 100 micrograms 6 hourly, maximum 4 days. More than 27 weeks, 25 to 50 microgram 4 hourly, maximum 6 doses. Use of prostaglandin is associated with increased risk of uterine rupture in cases of previous scar. So in previous scar, there is dilemma how to give the induction, how to do the induction. So we are doing with the mechanical. In our institute, we are doing the mechanical dilatation of the cervix, and Synto is titratable. So we are giving oxytocin followed that. Membrane should not be ruptured. Reason because fetus is inside, there is no life, and dead body is very prone to get infected. So as soon means like we have to prevent the rupture of membrane as long as we could. Is it possible? Okay, pain management should be offered as for the live pregnancy. You have to check about the complete blood count, coagulation profile, and the signs of infection. Active management of third stage of labor to be done, but you have to be gentle about while doing control contraction, because the placenta is mushy, because placenta is not having very good active blood supply, that could lead to the breakage of the cord. Okay, keep blood and blood products ready. What could be the complication? There could be infection, pph. What is pph? Pph postpartum hemorrhage. ठीक है, that could be due to retained placenta, that could be due to abruption. In the IUD, there is much chances of disseminated intravascular coagulation. Patient can go in a shock, patient can have renal failure, patient can have sepsis and the maternal death. What you are going to do post delivery? Okay, the delivery is there. So, what is the role of doctors in post delivery? You have to give the emotional support and counseling, as they are at increased risk of postpartum depression. You have to keep in non-maternity ward. Non-maternity ward, why? Because when you are keeping the patient in maternity ward, the next bed patient is having a live fetus and she is enjoying the pregnancy, she is breastfeeding the fetus. That could lead to the uh, postpartum depression. You have to do the separation of lactation. What you have to advise? You have to advise diet, breast support, dopamine agonist, estrogen, and you have to counsel for future pregnancy, early ANC visit, preconceptional testing. Both type of counseling is very much required. Okay, assurance in cases of non-recurring causes, contraceptive counseling. All these assurances required. So, what you're going to do for the future pregnancy? Preconception or initial prenatal visit, you have to check again detailed medical and obstetric history. You have to do the evaluation of workup of previous stillbirth, determination of recurrence risk, smoking cessation, weight loss in obese women, genetic counseling if family genetic condition exists, medical probe like diabetes should be managed prior. ठीक है, थ्रोम्बोफिलिया वर्कअप, Of course, it is very much required. Anti-lipid antibodies, risk of recurrence is 7 to 10 per thousand births, support and reassurance. These are the points which you have to consider in the preconception counseling. For the first trimester, you should do dating sonography. In the first trimester screen, you should do pregnancy associated plasma protein A, that is PAP-A, and beta HCG, nuchal translucency. These are the that is called as level 1 scan, and you should start the tablet folic acid. In the second trimester, you should do the fetal ultrasonographic anatomic survey at 18 to 20 weeks, maternal serum screening, blood investigations. Okay. In the third trimester, you should do the sonography screening for fetal growth restriction after 28 weeks of gestation, admission at critical period in high risk cases, kick count starting at 28 weeks of gestation, antepartum fetal surveillance is required. Strategy for prevention. How you're going to prevent? Not sure. ठीक है. Losing weight. Patient has to lose the weight. Lifestyle modification. Women should try to optimize their health prior to pregnancy. Enough folic acid before they get pregnant. Women with diabetes mellitus, they should be on tight control. Educate women not to delay pregnancy. Stillbirth audit कर सकते हो आप. So what is the take home message? Unknown etiology होती है in 25 to 60% cases में, intrauterine fetal death cases में. ठीक है. Optimal evaluation is very much required. There is evidence based model for evaluation and future management, and you should allow parents to sit and pray in isolation, because that is a grieving factor for the parents. They can take photographs, footprints, preserve lock of hair and name of the child. And you have to do the reassurance and guidance for future pregnancy. Thank you. So is there any question you are going to ask? I have to wait for 15 minutes for your questions. Excuse me?